Your wife?
Hey, with the same red ass hair. Wow. It's my variant. Oh no. Oh, right. Right.
It's like, about that?
Yes, you might want to sit down for this. Alright. As far as stingers go, that's not bad. Not bad.
Don't pause. Press play. Don't pause.
So there you have it, guys. That was the season finale of Superman and Lois. Not bad. I think sometimes the breaks kind of killed it a little bit. I didn't like the idea of them kind of starting a story, and then obviously some of it couldn't have been helped because of Corona and things like that. But sometimes it was like, okay, they would give us a few episodes and then take a month break.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
and
right.
it was kind of like
because of Corona, Superman and Lois and Supergirl ended up overlapping. So they had Superman on for a bit, came out so they could do the rest of the filming, and then its play what they already filmed for Supergirl. I
mean, I wouldn't even say early on I understood that, but it just even towards the end, like these last two episodes came after another month break, and even before that was it like a 2-month break.
But you also had
it was wild.
Between
Olympics
the
and
Grammys and the Olympics, it's like
I get it.
A lot of shows take their breaks because they're not going to get the viewing.
I think the strongest, the stronger half, and Tim Bolt, thank you for following. I think the first half of the season was a lot stronger. The wrap up, it wrapped up okay. It wasn't a huge sort of moments, but I think it did okay for what they were kind of given and the story that they were kind of telling. I think it worked out. I think the Edge Morgan sort of Morgan Edge dragged a little long, but like I think after his personality sort of disappeared and essentially became like the Eradicator, it kind of got dry after that. Like I felt like there was something missing from but I mean overall I think it worked out well enough. I guess. For
me, I looked at it as the ending for it was enough of a soft cliffhanger to be like, hey, we've wrapped up the story. We could have a season 2, or we may not, but at least everyone's story came to a clean close.
Yeah.
But then on the opposite side, it's like with the story being so long and separated between Steele's story coming in and the big reveal that he's not Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
To the Eradicator. It's like, okay, you got the Eradicator. Well, so little spin-off characters in between that were basically just one-offs. And then the Eradicator. And now it's like, okay, we've cleaned all this stuff up. We've buried everything from the first season, being from his mom and then closing up to his dad. It's like, okay, we've closed that. Now let's move on from here. So her showing up is like, okay, we're going to go in a different direction now. And I'm okay with that. And I think having them there, because they're not going to just leave, would add a different dynamic, because now she's going to be a new student in school. She's going to end up having frustrations with the brothers and things because they're getting the love from the lady that looks like her mom, and her mom's not there, kind of thing. Is one direction they could go. Different direction, she's like, oh, I understand, it's a different world, you aren't the same, and then just move on. Right. Which would be kind of where I would like it to go, because I don't want it to be the same as her father.
Right.
Because it would seem a little redundant to do
that. Thank you for the subscription as well, Tim Beal. So what I will say that they handled really well was the family element. I think it got a little redundant after a while, and it kind of foreshadowed that Lois was going to have some sort of point in getting Jordan back, and which is fine. It didn't get overbearing, which I thought was cool. What also was kind of good was it wasn't just a whole talk no jutsu situation where that's all they did was just talk people out of breaking. That's the one problem I
you
had.
mean like they did with the Flash?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but I do like the fact that we had some pretty cool epic fight scenes with Steel, with Superman, with Morgan Edge, like that. So
and they didn't use the same
tactics time,
that you use for each show
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That was cool. For 2 seconds, I thought he was gonna throw it to the point where Superman would actually have to catch it and hit him.
Correct.
Because part of me is like, okay, you have to throw it from a certain distance. And I guess it'd be a no-brainer that it's not so much just
Superman
a different
throw it,
distance, just have Superman throw it.
Right.
But then it's like you have to keep him in,
in
the
place.
character still
Yeah,
and in
yeah.
place. And Superman would be able to do that as opposed to Steel. So it's like,
Now that I
okay,
think about
I
it,
get
isn't that a straight out of Dragon Ball as well, where
Shadow
special beam
Hey,
cannon,
Yeah.
and he was holding, because that's exactly what happened.
But the good thing it didn't go through him.
Right, but Goku was holding his brother, Raditz, like
Yeah.
that. Okay, interesting.
I like the effect in the way that they showed him using speed, but also how the atmosphere is breaking around him as he's flying through to get to Edge. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
And shout out to Tom Cavanaugh as well. I think this was one of his better directing works, that he's done, because I never really thought he was that good on the Flash. But I also think the Flash sort of restricts him from doing certain things, whereas
this one he's got more free reign.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of the shot selection, even the positioning of the actors, really felt like some good comic book sort of material. Sometimes it was a little overdone, like
when Lois is sitting in the barn.
Just the basic family, like they look like they all were about to be like, it's morphin' time, let's go. Let's save this city, like
the
everybody.
family hero shot.
Yeah, everybody had the arrow shot.
Part of me liked it because I expect that from, people with innate power or Superman or whatever. But seeing the everyday family doing that and they're heroes in their own ways is like, that's kind of cool because heroes are firefighters, and nurses, and police officers. It's like, okay, I kind of get it. One of the things that they nodded to that I hope does happen upon the next season, or if they stretch it and make it into a third, is Lana going for mayor of the town, potentially. Because the mayor that they have there is obviously corrupt. He's no good.
Right.
Rebuilding the town and making it different is also another way to get the story to evolve and go somewhere else. Since most of the Superman stories are usually done in Metropolis, when they go to Smallville, it's usually like a really short story. So doing that gives them more reason for the main cast to stay there. My question is, where do you go from here? Natalie showing up, that's a different dynamic altogether. But the town itself and the cast that we've dealt with, where do you go from here?
I mean, see, that's my thing is I honestly wouldn't mind them leaving Smallville because, I like the Smallville element, but I don't know if I can keep on doing season after season of small town issues, so to speak.
Have you not seen the TV show Smallville?
No, I haven't. Because for that particular reason. That particular reason. I'm like, I like the element of Superman dealing with a bigger sort of world or even big city sort of stuff. Like, I wouldn't mind them occasionally going back and forth to Smallville, but
or somewhere
just it's kind of the same issue I have with Stargirl. It's kind of just small town stories,
issues that
just they get kind of redundant and kind of boring sometimes for me. Like, I like city-based stories. One of the reasons
there's more dynamic going on.
Yeah, just more things going on and just more relatable as well. I think with the small town sort of stuff, it's kind of like I get it, and I it's understandable that Superman and Lois, especially with Lois buying up the newspaper, like it's going to be focused on that again. But at times, I do like just seeing Superman dealing with bigger issues,
more
because
worldly issues.
And so if they can bring it to Metropolis, and I think this show did a good job occasionally having Superman in Metropolis, and we saw scenes like the flashback episode of when Superman and Lois first met.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites because it actually showed him in Metropolis getting interviewed, and it was
being
just
fresh.
Yeah, it was relatable. It was just relatable. So just the small town atmosphere can get kind of dry sometimes, and especially at some point in time, they're going to have to introduce bigger and badder people like Luther, and I'm sure it's coming. I don't know if they're going to do it by season 2, and all likely they will. Some form of Doomsday. You know?
I'm hoping that if they do any stories, Doomsday they stay away from. For one specific reason, the movies. We've had it, and it's still so recent, and there are so many other characters to choose from. I think, not just for television, but storytelling and writing-wise, it would do better, because we've had Doomsday both in the movie and in the TV show Krypton within the last 5 years. So I'm like, let's take a break from Doomsday. Let's go with any other character. Parasite, Brainiac, anything would be interesting.
Now, do you think,
even with Brainiac, we've had... Sorry, go ahead.
So this one was kind of an eradicator.
Cyborg Superman is next.
Cyborg. So I was going to ask you, like,
that's
if,
what General Lane's going to be turned into.
If second season, if you were to pitch, I don't think they should have just one villain, but how many villains do you think, or which villains would you pick to help carry this out?
Which villains becomes more difficult, because it also depends on where the focus is location-wise.
Right.
Part of me wouldn't do something super worldly like what we potentially could have had with Eradicator.
Right, okay.
Because that would feel a little redundant.
Right.
I would have something building to something like that. So the next season, I would actually start smaller and build from there. Doing that, characters I would like to see Parasite, but done in a slightly different way. Not so much like the most recent animated one, where he ended up looking like an alien. Don't have to go that far. Keep it simple. That character...
they turned him into Godzilla.
What is it? Atomic Skull.
Okay.
Would be interesting, just because we haven't seen it. The only reason I hesitate with that, because people would be like, well, he's kind of like Ghost Rider, and that's where I would kind of... You'd have to find a different way of doing it. But characters like that, I think, would be interesting, because you can keep them somewhat local and build from there into, hey, we've got, as you mentioned, how many villains? Say you've got, let's say, 3 or 4 villains, and then build into a Legion of Doom or something like that into a third season or something else. Metallo would be interesting.
Well, I feel like some of the problem with a lot of Supermans...
Then we're just dealing with kryptonite by itself.
Right, but with the problem with, I feel, with Superman's more human leveled villains is that they're not like big players. Like, I wouldn't want to see an entire season stretched out with Metallo being the big bad, right?
No.
You know?
Well, exactly. So that's why I said have
they're
it
more
building.
like
So
henchmen,
like you have them being there, and they're basically these linchpins into a bigger situation that doesn't happen or start until the end of the second season.
So would you say, because when I think of like,
and I don't mean it doesn't have to be episodic, because if it's episodic, there's pros and cons to that. I'd rather it just be an ongoing story that builds into something with an episode or two diverting from it.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think someone like Brainiac could fit in this world, in this show?
Oh, definitely. If you could bring Steel and his daughter from a completely different Earth into this, yeah, you can bring Brainiac into it.
Okay.
But I wouldn't bring Brainiac into it, mainly because you had a version of him that was on Supergirl.
Right.
And that's too soon.
Okay.
Use a character that's not used in any of those, because it keeps things fresh, gives the writers something different to do with it. It's like Morgan Edge didn't seem like a big bad until you got to know him. Right. So using that type of format would be interesting.
Okay. Maybe so somebody else is mentioning Mongol. Maybe.
Mongol would be interesting, but you bring Mongol in, you're basically saying
extraterrestrial.
Mongol, Darkseid, and Doomsday. I'll even throw in Brainiac right there. Those 4 characters are so otherworldly that this show
I don't know if
isn't ready for that yet.
I agree.
They're fantastic characters, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying no, but I think it's too soon. Start smaller. And I wouldn't throw in a bunch of side characters.
What about Lex?
Lex is more the same of Morgan Edge.
Right.
So, if anything, I'd bring Lex in at the end of the season as being the person that was putting these other villains in Superman's way to build a team to stop Superman or something of that nature. That would make more sense for having him there. Because otherwise, again, he was in the crossovers. He was in Supergirl. It's too soon.
What about Amanda Waller? Actually, Amanda Waller in Cadmus. Working with Cadmus.
Cadmus would be somewhat interesting because they pick up where Edge left off, or they took some of his technology.
So I feel like Cadmus,
that would be cool.
I feel like Cadmus might be the best way to start getting into sci-fi, not otherworldly, but at least sort of this idea that it's everything's not so normal anymore, and then Amanda Waller and Cadmus kind of build into remember there was like that one speedster Asian kid that disappeared or got locked up or something like that. Like,
they
could
saved him.
Yeah, but we can bring in the
say that
they
used him and we're experimenting on him.
Well, some form of the Suicide Squad, blood sport, like that.
And to answer the question that someone had posted, yes, she is dead.
She can always come back. But Crisis also happened.
Or they have her from, like they did with John, from a different...
Right. After Crisis, everything got reset anyway, so it's kind of like
So
whatever.
she could kind of be around?
No, like I want to bring a CCH Pounder who did the voice of Amanda Waller. Like, she would be perfect. Like, don't give me hot, sexy Amanda Waller. Give me the wall. Like, I would love to see something like that. I think that might actually work. Amanda Waller in Superman and Lois would be something kind of unique, in her kind of making a Task Force X type of story. Yeah.
Right where you're going right now. Okay, General Ling is retiring.
Yeah.
They need someone to take his
Amanda
place.
Waller comes
and she
in.
comes in and takes over. And now he has to work with someone who's actually working against him.
Yeah.
Which is where he felt General Lane was at, but...
And then because that's the thing, it's like technically General Lane is family, so there was always going to be that friction anyways. But what happens when you're working with somebody who doesn't trust you? Yeah. And she's like, oh yeah, you know those kryptonite programs you told us to keep? It's a good thing you did, because I'm taking over everything now. Yep. And you get shot.
Got him in my phone.
Bloodsport shoots him with a kryptonite bullet, puts his ass in the hospital. Check.
And then still has to somewhat take up the mantle and help out whatever situation until Superman heals up.
So people are asking...
Which would be why he has to escort into his suit.
Well, so they are asking... Well, see, I was thinking because they're focusing on... It might be a little too early, but... And they just had the whole daughter come in. If Cadmus is around... Superboy may not be that far.
Like, don't joke.
Yo.
Because Superboy is one of my... Okay, for
I'm
anyone
just
that knows
saying,
me, Superman, absolutely, he is what he is. Superboy is one of my all-time favorite characters. Be it the Connor Kent version is my favorite.
Right.
And then just after that would be Jonathan. The more recent Jonathan, I do like the writing that they have for that character. But Connor Kent is one of my favorite characters because he's complex. And there's things you can do with his character that you can't do with Superman. And they kind of fell short on the animated series. But,
so, as we know that starting when all the seasons come back next year, October. Sorry, as soon as October.
We get, a month and a half off?
Yeah. So all the all the shows are kind of coming back, and it's kind of too much though, honestly. But
Bizarro, not a bad idea. Via Cadmus would be interesting.
But they're asking with the 5-part crossover, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that idea that it's starting with a 5-part crossover. How are they going to deal with the CG? I don't think it'll be a problem, honestly. Like, if you can make Crisis on Earth X look like some continual sort of story, like a movie, I don't think it'll be that much of a difference between what we're seeing, the quality of Superman and Lois. Really, the quality, it's not that Superman and Lois is shot really, really well. It's just that the Flash
it is, but it's shot differently, and it's not all happening in the same 2 or 3 locations.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's lighting. It's the fact that that location. It's just that the other shows are shot a lot cheaper, and they don't use the cinematic filter as much as Superman and Lois does. And I don't think it'll look that different, though. It will be interesting to see if they take the shooting approach that they use with Superman and Lois for the crossover instead of what they do with the Flash and everything.
I think they should. I think they should use the format they use for Superman and Lois if they're going to do that type of crossover, because the characters as a whole would look better.
Right.
The action sequences and the motions would be better. And you don't have to rely on heavy CG for things because you can actually use the style that you're using here, and it cuts. But at the same time, I don't know I'm ready for a huge crossover. I'm like, I used to be all about it, but now I'm like...
But the thing is, honestly, the thing is, outside of Superman and Lois...
People aren't really watching the shows like they need to.
They need the crossover. They need the crossover to jumpstart people's interest in the Arrowverse or the CW verse again.
For me, I would take, not joking, I would take Superman and Lois, and I'd have it crossover with Batwoman before I'd have it crossover with Flash.
I could see that.
I
would have loved Supergirl and Lois, Supergirl and Batwoman, but
would have been great. But she bowed out.
Yeah. Oh well.
But it is what it is. So in this case, I would have Batwoman and Superman and Lois crossover because it's a good dynamic of the casts, and just to see where you go with the story. And then you're like, hey, these things are going on, and I need to have something somewhat grounded. Then you have two people from the new Bat family that can help out Superman on one side, help out Lois on the other.
All right.
So it works.
Well, we'll see. Like he said, man, it's only, honestly, for me personally, it's not enough of a break. But yeah, so we only have like a 2 months and a half or so until we'll see you guys again in October for
which is good though. For me, yeah. I mean that's enough. That's enough time because in between there's other stuff outside of
that's the problem I have. Like I need more of a break than that. Like for me, that's to me again, that's just as much as a regular break that Superman and Lois took sometimes in between their season. Right. So for me, it doesn't really even feel like there's enough time for them to even. And I also feel in some sense the actors as well.
What's replacing the shows that are not coming back? For example, you have Black Lightning isn't coming back.
Right. Supergirl's not coming back.
And Supergirl's not coming back.
I don't know.
But I guess is there anything replacing those or taking place? Because are the shows slowly transitioning over
only
to
the
HBO?
CW knows. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Only the CW knows. All right, guys, we'll talk to you on the next one. See you for the next season of Superman and Lois and the crossover.